Hey, welcome to another video. It's another video, it's a new day. I'm gonna make another one. This time we're not following the adventures of Gary, unfortunately. I just wanted to take a little break from that. We're reading a different one. I've also chosen this from Creepypasta. This one's called Mr. Longnose wants to play hide and seek. Mr. Longnose is a man and he's got a long nose. You bet. You bet he's got a long nose. Oh wait, no, we're not reading that, are we? We're reading... What? We're not reading that. Scratch that. We're not reading that. We're reading Anna and Elsa Discover. So anyway, let's get started. I was 7 when it happened. I never had much in the way of friends. Same with Cash. Poor boy. Poor boy. Poor. I was doing what I had always done when I was bored at that age. Playing in the field near my parents' small wooden cabin. We were poor. Very little to do when your parents didn't make much money. They had to spend it on the important stuff like heating and taxes. Bet they got a job at like the cream factory. They got a job at cream factory. And their job is to like, they have to like put the little thing on that squirts the cream out. They make the little thing on that squirts the cream out. Oftentimes, I was just glad to have running water and a bed to sleep at night. Anyway, the field. It was surrounded by woodland. All of the trees being tall, skinny conifers. That's what I look like. Tall, skinny conifer. That's me. Mostly spruce with outstretched limbs that clawed at the sky. The field was quite large and was perfect for imitating Someone's screaming, I don't know what's going on. I would pretend to be Darth Vader fighting Luke Skywalker or Captain Jack Sparrow making a narrow escape, or even Valkyrie Kane wielding magic to save. Who in the fuck is Valkyrie Kane? Let's look it up. Who is Valkyrie Kane? I've never heard of that. Is that like really popular? I've never heard of Valkyrie Kane. What is this character? What is this character? I've never seen this character. Skullduggery Pleasant. She's on the Heroes Wiki. She's official. Can I just say this about the Heroes Wiki? The Villains Wiki. I just want to say this. Every single character is on the Villains Wiki. Even good guys are on the Villains Wiki. I bet SpongeBob is on the Villains. I bet Batman is on the Villains Wiki. Let's have a look. Let's see if Batman's on the Villain Wiki. I know this is sidetracking, but let's see if Batman is on the Villains Wiki. Hold on, I just gotta find the Villains Wiki now. Villains Wikipedia. Villains Wikipedia. Welcome to the Villains Wikipedia. Yeah. Okay, let's just go back then. Oh wait. Oh no, I gotta click back. I'm wasting time here. Come on, go back. I'm gonna have to like just cut through audio of pure nothing. To me, editing this, put up a picture of something funny. Put up a picture of a guy with a chainsaw. Put up a picture of a guy playing baseball. Right, so anyway, getting back on track. My father worked as a low-level convenience employee, so I was completely wrong. My mother, well, she tried to work as a prostitute, often taking our rusty old Ford pickup truck into the city. She tried, she did, but I knew she hated it. Her and Dad had discussed it, argued for Dave's. I've done that again. I can't stop thinking about Dave. Man, Dave and his overalls. And then he finally gave in. As long as she had contraceptive methods at the ready, we couldn't afford another child. Even though she worked, she rarely got customers. She was over 40 years old. Oldie. Boomer. And a bit too plump for most folks prowling the streets to see her sexy. At least what sexy is thought of these days. She's been eating too many cheese strings, you know. It was any ordinary day. I had come home from school, my mother having to drive me into the city in order to get there. After school, I took the bus as close as it would take,
Got on the bus with me day saver, smoked the reefer in the corner.
Accident, the press stopped recording by accident. I'm an idiot. Guy, to the one guy watching, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. My arm was just on the button. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm just so sorry. I'm sorry. That's my apology. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It was usually an hour-long walk to get home from there. After that walk, I always went to the field, making May. Oh wait, no, I'm an idiot. I thought that was a spelling mistake, but it's not. I thought it said May, but it says Mayway. Oh wait, no, it is. It is a spelling mistake. It's supposed to say making my way, but it says making Mayway. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm just so sorry. I didn't mean to, it was an accident, I'm so sorry. Making my way through the coniferous trees and humming my favourite songs. Most of what I entertained myself with during my time in that field came from my imagination. I would occasionally get to watch movies and videos on the school computers during the lunch hour. I always signed out as many books as I was allowed from the school's library. Bookworm. I bet he's got big glasses. I bet he's got glasses the size of, his entire head. I bet he's got glasses that, stretch down to his toes. I was in the field. I don't remember quite the story I had made up for myself that time, but that doesn't matter. I was in that field, like always, when he appeared. He came from the woods. Most strange things to do. What? Most strange things to do. What does that mean? He came from the woods. Most strange things to do. No, wait, no. Most strange thing. Oh, I'm an idiot. I keep thinking it's a spelling mistake, but he came from the woods. Most strange things do. A man of long and thin proportions who pushed between the hundreds of conifer needles and scraggly branches. I was at the opposite end of the field as he was, and I simply watched him walk towards me, taking huge, exaggerated strides with spider-like legs. Ew, gross. He just sees the guy from across the field. He points at him, pulls a disgusted face and goes, "Ugh! What is that thing? What is that thing? Get away from me! Ugh, gross! Ugh." He was about halfway across when I finally got the sense that I should run from this man, this creature. That's mean. Probably just a guy going for a walk. He's probably just a guy walking his dog, and he's just calling him this big, tall creature. It's just a guy walking his dog. I tried to, but my movements were sluggish, and I didn't get 5 paces before he was in front of me. I didn't know what he was at first, but without the man saying a single thing, I knew him as Mr. Longnose, and I knew what he wanted. Does he have a long nose at least? Come on. Mr. Longnose was wearing a simple, dark red trench coat that swished the grass at his feet. His feet. I want to see Mr. Longnose's feet. He had tall, black combat boots on his feet and a pair of mirrored This is just a DeviantArt original character. I'm thinking of like Dante right now. I'm just imagining Dante with like cool glasses on, cool shades. He's like, "Hey kid, what are you doing out here? You should be alone out here on your own." And a pair of mirrored sunglasses perched upon his nose. And what a nose he had. Yes, now we're getting to the nose, man. Even though his disturbingly tall and gangly form, not to mention his arms that draped all the way down to his feet, was downright horrifying. His nose scared me the most. There were bogies coming out of it. I literally saw a bogey like fall out of his nose, and it landed on my shoe. I was like, lurgies, you're giving me lurgies. It stretched out from his face like a bird beak, like a bird beak, pale white like the rest of his skin, and curved downwards sharply. The appendage seemed as though it should have weighed down his head, especially because his neck was so wiry. He didn't say out, but I suddenly became aware that Mr. Longnose wanted me to play a game. He didn't speak, but I could hear a voice, or some sort of presence, that began counting down from 60. It resonated from Mr. Longnose like a pulse. Instructions had appeared in my mind. I had to hide from Mr. Longnose. I started to run. I ran across the field, into the woods, behind the trees, towards my house. Soon my throat was raw from the exertion, and I had dropped behind a fallen tree to catch my breath. Can you hear that? Unbelievable. People doing their work. People doing their job. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. I could hear something walking through the soft pine needles. A few twigs cracked. Mr. Longnose was looking for me. His game was hide and seek, an entertainment I was familiar with. What's hide and seek? I've never heard of hide and seek. Hang on, let me just look this up. What's hide and seek? Let's look up what hide and seek is, because I've never heard of hide and seek. Apparently it's a 2005 mystery thriller. You got 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. Tomatoes. Whoops. Shall we read the IMDb for hide and seek, the 2005 mystery thriller that's 1 hour and 41 minutes long? No, we're not. Let's just read the scary story. I could feel the air from his movements and sense the swish of his coat. My teeth were chattering. I was gonna do the sound of chattering teeth, but I couldn't. To the viewers at home, can you do the sound of if you can do the sound of a chattering teeth noise, send it to us in the studio, and we'll block you on all social media. My teeth were chattering. My tongue was cold and dry. I felt antsy and paranoid. I couldn't stay any longer. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I didn't get far before Mr. Longnose came into my peripheral vision. He was still taking those extensive steps. His head turned towards me. Someone's dog is barking. Shut up, you mongrel. Unbelievable. These little creatures known as dogs should be exterminated. I could see my ramshackle home in the distance, and I could hear my father using his mallet to pound nails and seal the hole in the roof. Dad, help me, I screamed. Mr. Longnose was right behind me now. He was making some sort of clicking noise, like the sound of a metal fork in someone's teeth. My foot caught on a log and I was sent sprawling into the dirt. When I looked up, Mr. Longnose was looming over me. One of his hands came forward and touched my chest. A pain so intense it forced my muscles rigid, and I let loose a cry so loud that my voice was hoarse within seconds. And still I kept wailing as Mr. Longnose plunged his skinny phalanges. I've never seen that word. My vision blurred until it was just a mass of grey and brown. When I woke up, Mr. Longnose was gone and my father was cradling me in his bulky arms, in his big muscles, in his big muscly muscles. The muscles were so big that they were covering the entire world. Hold on, I gotta close the blinds actually. It's too bright, the sun's coming in. Get your centre, frick. I don't like the sun. Get out of it. Okay, the blinds are closed. My father immediately pointed out a tattoo on the left side of my neck. It was shaped like a plague doctor mask from the 1600s. I didn't know what it was when I first saw it, but my dad enlightened me, telling it was something old doctors wore in medieval times. Of course, we were both perplexed, because I had never gotten a tattoo. I was only 7 after all. Sorry. I was confused and disoriented from my experience, so my response was bleary and gobsmacked my father. Dad, that looks like Mr. Longnose, was what I said. He tried to ask me what I meant, but I'd gone catatonic. I stayed that way for a week after I met Mr. Longnose. I saw Mr. Longnose 3 more times. 3 more times. The second time after the incident, he appeared in a cafe when I was in London. I'd been 13 years old at the time, and my parents were better off at that point. I tried to call for help from the other patrons, but they only looked confused. It seemed as though I was the only one who could see Mr. Longnose. I ran from the cafe and into the street. I ran and didn't look behind me. I was faster this time, so I had already put quite some distance between myself and Mr. Longnose. All was looking well until a car swerved around the corner and crunched against me and slammed into a wall and killed me and the person inside the car, and there was an explosion. Mr. Longnose survived with a crippled knee. Mr. Longnose got taken to hospital. Poor Mr. Longnose, man. Stuff he has to deal with. He's just trying to have a nice little fun game and he gets a crippled leg. Poor guy, man. Poor guy. I could hear Mr. Longnose getting closer, but my legs wouldn't push me up off the ground. He reached me and touched me with his hands again. I awoke in the hospital. This time there was a tattoo of an eye on my right palm. The third total time I didn't have a chance. He woke me up while I was sleeping in my apartment, still living in London. London, what a crap. What a crap hole. What, you know what? You know what? You know what? Jesus Christ. This dog. Shut up, man. Shut up. I'll kill you. I was 21 then. He began to count down and I only made it down the elevator and out the front door before he caught me. Again, another stab of agony and a new marking on my flesh. Now I had a black rhombus tattoo on my left cheek. After that third encounter, I received a package in the mail. It was a plain brown shipping box. There was no weight in it. The only pressure on my hands was from the box itself. I took it up to my room and opened it. There was nothing inside but a piece of paper. Why do you need a box? Mr. Longnose, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, Mr. Longnose. It had 3 symbols on it, left to right. First was the plague doctor mask, identical to the one emblazoned on my neck. Next was the eye, again, the exact same as the marking on my palm. Then the rhombus, identical. There was a message beneath sigils. You have been found free. If there is 2 more, Mr. Longnose will claim you. Uh-oh, he's gonna get copyright claimed by Mr. Longnose. 5 is all he needs. Hide for 3 more. Mr. Longnose will be impressed. When Mr. Longnose is impressed, hide and seek is over. There was no signature, just a picture of a crudely drawn face with a hideously long nose that I recognised very well. Don't insult Mr. Longnose's drawings. Mr. Longnose drew that. It's a picture of himself. He had a balloon and he was riding a donkey. The 4th total time was different. This time I was prepared for Mr. Longnose. As soon as I heard his countdown, I hopped in my car and started driving. It had been 5 years since the last time I had just turned 26. I drove for hours, no place in mind, as long as it wasn't anywhere near. As long as it was anywhere near where Mr. Longnose wasn't. I stopped many times for gas until I ran out of money. I saw Mr. Longnose in the distance, taking his giant cartoonish steps directly towards me. 3 weeks later, I was still going. I'd drawn money from my bank account to keep buying gas to stay away from Mr. Longnose. Distance doesn't seem to be too much of a trifle for him. I started my fleeing in London. After 3 weeks, I had gone across the English Channel and into France, then from France to Switzerland, on to Germany. Another week, and I had gone across Czechia. Bloody hell, man. He's just travelling all over the world. This is what Mr. Longnose does for you. He gets you to travel all over. He shows you the world. Does Mr. Longnose. He's kind of a considerate guy, you know. I'd date him. I'd date Mr. Longnose. In 4 weeks, I had travelled all over Europe and was actually considering taking the drive to Greece. But then, all of a sudden, I got an air of snapped tension in my mind, and during a short rest stop at a restaurant, I knew it. Mr. Longnose was gone. For now, at least. Since then, I've worked out a way to estimate when Mr. Longnose will come for me. He seems to appear about every 4 to 7 years. He will seek me for at least 3 weeks or so. If he makes any physical contact with me, I will lose that game of hide and seek. Mr. Longnose has won 4 games of hide and seek so far, and there have been 6 in total. I recently won the 5th game of hide and seek. 2 down, 1 to go. Yes now, boys. We're gonna win it. We're gonna win it. We're gonna do it. I'm quite a bit older now. I think I'm at least close to 60 by this point. Bloody hell. Boomer. Boomer. The future is now, old man. All I need to do is win 1 more game, and Mr. Longnose will leave me alone. But Mr. Longnose only needs to win 1 more game to claim me, whatever that means. Hang on, let me just take a drink, man. Got myself some Cola X. That's nice. It's not as good as OG Coke, but it'll do. It does its job of parching my thirst. Whatever that. I'm an old man, and my memory is foggy. I've been checked for memory ailments, and been diagnosed with at least one. I'm writing the whole story down for myself in a recent moment of clarity. It's been 6 years since I've seen Mr. Longnose, and even while I write this, I can feel his foreboding presence getting closer. Once I finish this document, I'll print out some copies to put up on my walls, so I don't forget that Mr. Longnose is coming. I don't know if I'll even get that far with the way I can sense Mr. Longnose nearing me. I need to go. All I need to take is my food, my water, my cash, and my car. Guns don't work on Mr. Longnose. Bullets just seem to dissipate before they hit him. Has he tried? He didn't say that he tried. It's only just saying that he tried. Knives, pipes, axes, none of that does anything to him. He's getting closer, I can feel it. Mr. Longnose is ready for our last game, and there's no way in hell I will let him win it. A couple of days later, he's found dead in a ditch, and Mr. Longnose got him. Right, so that's the end of that one. There's no part 2 to that one. That's just it. Mr. Longnose killed him. Stay tuned for the next video where we read the scariest creepypasta of all time. And that is, of course, Anna and Elsa discover soda